Look at a massive, bright green farm field. You'd probably think it's perfectly healthy, right? Wrong. Ecologically speaking, it's a total dead zone. Just a flat, green desert. Back in 2021, researchers walked a 90-acre patch of land in Scotland to check on the wildlife. They found exactly 35 bumblebees. In the entire space. Just 35. But then, and this is the crazy part, fast forward just 24 months. They walked that exact same dirt and counted over 4,000 of them. That is a 116 times population explosion. Almost out of nowhere. We constantly hear these depressing stories about how pollinators are dying out. How concrete and chemicals are wiping them off the map. And with thousands of houses currently being built right next door to this specific field, you'd think these bees didn't stand a chance at all. But here's the thing. This local crew didn't bring in some expensive landscaping team. They didn't even plant thousands of flowers by hand. They basically did the exact opposite of what traditional farming tells you to do. So here's what happened. And it's absolute proof that nature can heal incredibly fast if you just know exactly when to get out of its way. In 2021, if you walked through this 90-acre patch of dirt in Scotland, you'd hear absolute silence. Researchers went out there, walked the entire thing, and counted exactly 35 bumblebees. Total. 2 years later, that number exploded to 4,056. That is a 116 times increase. In just 24 months. And that's why it matters. Because right now, the global bee situation is genuinely terrifying. According to the Bumblebee Conservation Trust, a full third of all UK bumblebee species, 8 out of 24 to be exact, are basically on the verge of disappearing entirely. They are listed as top conservation priorities. We've ripped up their natural homes to build more stuff, totally messed with the climate, and drenched their remaining food in agricultural chemicals. But here's the problem with those chemicals. It's not just that they are toxic on contact. The science behind it is pretty grim. The Bumblebee Conservation Trust points out that common pesticides, specifically neonicotinoids, actually scramble a bee's central nervous system. It destroys their internal navigation. So a bee flies out to grab pollen, gets completely confused, and literally can't find its way back home. They just wander off and die. So you have this massive nationwide collapse happening everywhere. But somehow, this one single project up in Perth managed to completely reverse the trend and bring thousands of them back almost overnight. So here's what happened next. When you drive past a massive farm field, it looks like nature. It's bright green. It looks healthy. But here's the thing. Ecologically speaking, a field of barley is just a desert painted green. That's exactly what was happening at Rewilding Denmark Field. It's a 90-acre project sitting just north of Perth. Back in 2021, this entire place was nothing but a barley monoculture. And a monoculture means exactly what it sounds like. It's one single crop stretched out as far as you can see, at the expense of absolutely everything else. For decades, farmers ran heavy machinery over this land, plowing the dirt over and over. And to protect that one crop, they sprayed heavy herbicides and pesticides. But here's the problem with farming like that. Those chemicals don't just kill the specific bugs eating the crops. They literally sanitize the soil. Healthy dirt is actually supposed to be alive. It should be packed with complex microbiological networks, fungi and bacteria that plants and insects rely on to survive. But when you drench a field in herbicides for years, you wipe that underground network completely clean. So you end up with this weird illusion. You get land that looks lush and green on the surface, but underneath it is biologically dead. There were no wildflowers growing. There was zero shelter for any wildlife. And most importantly, there was absolutely no food for any pollinator trying to survive. It was a total dead zone. And that makes what happened next even crazier. So here's what happened when they finally pulled the plug on the chemicals. Ecologist Ellie Corsi stepped in to manage the project back in 2021. And her team's strategy? Suspiciously simple. They didn't haul in fancy landscaping crews. No expensive soil treatments. They literally just backed off and let nature take the lead. Within 2 years, that bare, heavily farmed dirt and dead barley stubble completely transformed. 84 different plant species naturally colonized the fields. Which obviously begs the question, where did they come from? If nobody actually planted a single thing, how do 84 species just magically appear? This is where the science gets really interesting. According to botanical research, native seeds don't just die when a farmer plows them under. They can sit dormant, buried deep underground, for decades. They literally sleep through the chemical sprays and the heavy machinery, just waiting for the coast to clear. The second the tractors stop and the soil gets a breather, boom, they wake up and sprout. But here's the problem. When those dormant seeds finally sprouted, they included plants like spear thistle and smooth hawksbeard. Your average person sees those, immediately labels them as annoying weeds, and rips them out of the ground. Big mistake. Those aren't weeds. They are vital native species. And to a starving pollinator, a patch of spear thistle isn't an eyesore. It's basically an all-you-can-eat buffet. By simply ignoring the urge to tidy up and rip out the weeds, Ellie's team naturally built a 5-star restaurant for local bugs. So once the buffet was open, the locals started showing up. But you might be thinking, how on earth do they know exactly 4,056 bees arrived? You can't just stand in the middle of 90 acres and try to count them on your fingers. They didn't just eyeball it. They used the bee walk method. Here's how it works. It sounds highly technical, but it really just means mapping out a fixed, invisible line across the landscape. The ecologists walk that exact same path every single week, counting any bee that enters their specific zone. No guessing. No accidentally counting the same bee twice. Just raw, undeniable data. And the 2023 numbers were wild. Not only did the total population explode, but the actual diversity of the bees doubled. Back when it was just a dead barley field, they were lucky to find 5 different species scraping by. 2 years later, 10 distinct species were thriving out there. Dave Goulson, the ecologist who literally founded the Bumblebee Conservation Trust, looked at this project and pointed out something really important. And here's the thing. Right now, reading the news about the environment is usually pretty depressing. But Goulson said Denmark Field is absolute proof that wildlife can actually recover, and quickly. We just have to give nature a little bit of space, back off, and let her work her magic. And here's the thing. It isn't just the bugs noticing the difference. The people living right next door are feeling it, too. A local resident named Liz Myhill actually pointed out that the constant, annoying drone of highway traffic has literally been drowned out. It got replaced by the sound of buzzing bees and meadows absolutely bursting with wildflowers. But there's a massive catch. This 90-acre patch of land is basically a tiny green island. Right this second, developers are slapping down over 4,000 new houses right next to the project. They're even paving a massive new outer city ring road on the edge of town. Concrete is squeezing in from every single direction. And that's exactly why Denmark Field matters so much. It basically means human beings have chopped up the natural world into tiny, isolated pieces separated by roads and parking lots. It's usually devastating for wildlife. But recent ecological studies show that these small, protected green spaces in urban areas actually act like crucial life rafts. If an insect population is drowning in a sea of concrete, a 90-acre meadow isn't just nice to look at. It's a literal lifesaver. So here's what the whole thing proves. Even when you are completely surrounded by urban sprawl, heavy machinery, and endless pavement, if you just back off and give nature a tiny sliver of land, she knows exactly how to fight back and survive. There you go.